Hey, welcome in. I'm Artris, and in this video, we're going to be going over the red-purple Luffy list that ended up placing top 4 at the North American National Tournament at the Bandai Card Game Fest a couple weeks ago at the time of this recording. This deck was piloted by Victor Pham, and to be honest, I didn't expect red-purple Luffy to do so well in the tournament. I thought at the beginning of this meta that it would be an S-tier deck, and I think over time, my feelings on it cooled a little bit to where I thought maybe it'd be more of like an A-tier deck, maybe not really top at a tournament too much, but it could present itself as a very volatile deck if handled with the right pilot. And so I saw that Victor Pham ended up using this deck at the tournament and was in top 4, and I was absolutely just astounded that it made it that far. So I had to take a look afterwards to see what list he was running, and most of it is what you would come to expect in OP05, but there are a few cards that we'll go over when we get into the deck list that are very interesting for sure. If you find anything in this video useful or informative, please make sure to drop a like and a sub. It helps out the channel immensely. And also, if you'd like to talk about One Piece card game outside of the YouTube comments, make sure to join the Discord. The link is in the description below. All right, so let's go over the deck list. We are looking at the red-purple Luffy that came out in Starter Deck 10 in OP04. I did a video on this in OP04 when it came out, but at the time, Edward Newgate was restricted to only 1 copy, so we had to find some workarounds. And then also the whole point of this deck is to run the 10-drop Luffy, which we'll get to in a second, because of the leader effect, saying activate main once per turn. If your field has 0 Dawn, or your board has 8 or more Dawn, add 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck and make it active. And so that first part of the clause, if your field has 0 Dawn, was never in effect in 04, but with 05, with this new 10-drop Luffy, you on play Dawn -10, so you wipe all of your Dawn off the field, then you can use your ability. So this synchronizes very well with this Luffy leader, and it's the whole reason why you would run this deck. So you're getting both procs of this ability when you're playing the leader. So let's get into the deck list. We are running 4 Nami, which the Nami is a Straw Hat Crew Searcher. So you look at the top 5 of your deck, reveal a Straw Hat Crew type card. And so typically what you're doing is just trying to fill out your curve. You can play the Nami to pretty much grab anything that you need, whether it's a defensive tool from Rad Beam, the 10-drop Luffy, which we just shown, the Zorojuro 3-drop that ramps you. There's plenty of things for you to grab with this Nami, so it's a great way to start off your turn. Next, we're running 4 of the Edward Newgate 9-drop. On play, up to one of your leader gains plus 2,000 power until the start of your turn. Then you cannot add cards from your life area to your hand by effects this turn. That second part of the effect is mostly for the Edward Newgate leader. The first part of it, though, being able to buff your leader by 2,000 power for a whole turn cycle, is incredibly powerful. It's hard for your opponent to be able to crack through an 8k leader. They have to invest a lot of Dawn, and oftentimes you're just able to counter out of that and stay healthy, or alive rather, when you drop this. And especially if you drop back-to-back-to-back-to-back Newgates with this leader, it is devastating for your opponent. So the entire point of this deck, in my opinion, is to be able to chain Newgates until you can get to a comfortable spot where you can drop the 10-drop and go for game. It does feel a little bit weird, though, I will say, dropping the 10-drop when you have all these Newgates on the field and you just see them all go away. But obviously, you're going to do that as like kind of a game closer. Then we're running 2 of the Rush Luffy. This is a very good Straw Hat card that you might be able to play to close out a game. It's unblockable with 2 Dawn on it. It has Rush. You can also use it early game to kind of apply some pressure. 2 6k bodies with your leader, and then this coming down on your 5 Dawn turn is a very strong play, especially if you're going first. So yeah, this is very versatile in what you can use it for. Typically, you're going to hold on to it, though, if you don't have any other plays. So you can kind of use this to go for game at the very end. Then we're running 4 of the Zorojuro 3-drop. This came out in OP05, and this says when attacking, if you have 3 or less life, add up to 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck and set it as active. You're always at 3 or less life. So because of that, this is automatically an add for the deck. It is a little bit slow, but it does ramp you, and so if you can go first and you play this down, and hopefully you're not going against Sakazuki that can remove it pretty easily, you're typically going to be able to ramp up the turn after and then have an extra Dawn to do with whatever you'd please. Usually what you'll do, an ideal play, is play the Zorojuro, swing with it the next turn, and then you have a Jean Bart, and you can use the Jean Bart to ramp up again, and then the following turn, you can use your leader ability to get to 9 Dawn and play the Edward Newgate. So you're ramping up really fast here. So Zorojuro, I think, is a must-have in the deck. It, like I said, is searchable with the Straw Hat Crew because of Nami. It also is a 1k, which is really nice, too, in the late game in case you do draw into it, and you don't need to ramp anymore. We're running 4 of the Frenoskes, which this is a new OP05 2K counter, mostly for the 2K counter, but it does have some use outside of that. If you are needing a rush unit towards the end of the game and you're desperate for that rush unit and you draw into the Frenoske, you can play this down, and it says if you have 8 or more Dawn in the field, this character gains rush with 1 Dawn attached, so it can go for game if you so choose, but oftentimes you're going to use this as a 2K for the most part. Then, as I've said already, the 10-drop Luffy, on play Dawn -10, place all of your characters other than this character at the bottom of your deck in any order, then after this turn, take another turn. So basically, I call this a Time Walk Luffy because if you're familiar with Magic the Gathering, Time Walk allows you to take an extra turn, so that's what I just call this. But Victor's running 3 of these, and I think it really makes sense here. You don't want to run 4, I think, because if you see 4, like you're going to see it enough. You're going to definitely see it in a game. And if you run into 2, you're probably not going to be able to play 2 back-to-back. If you are able to play 2 in a game, then I feel like you probably have won at that point for the most part. The other important line of text on this body says activate main once per turn. You can pay 1 Dawn and add 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck as active. So after you use the ability, then you use your leader ability to ramp 1, then you use this second ability to pay 1 and then ramp another. So then the following turn, you're at 4 Dawn and you're able to get to 5 and then once again ramp up from there. And you're able to get back to 10 or at least 9 relatively quickly, maybe another turn or 2 after you play this down. So it's not like everything's all for naught, just throwing this down and getting rid of all of your Dawn. This will help you ramp back up. Then we're running 2 of the 6-drop King, on play Dawn -1, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. This is very handy for the spot removal, especially against like Sakazuki if they have a Kuzan in the field. You can throw this down, get a body, and then also get rid of the Kuzan. There's other applicable uses for it, but I think for the most part, that's what comes to mind for me, is if I'm going against Sakazuki, I want to get rid of the Kuzan without having to attack into it. So King is really good here. Of course, it's not a counter card, but it is a very good card to rely on for some removal if you need it. Then we're running 4 of the starter deck Queen. This is a blocker and then Dawn -1 on play. Draw 2 cards and trash 1 card from your hand. This is a very expensive card. It was the reason why this deck was so expensive, and I think probably why it's still so expensive right now is because just Queen is a really good blocker, really good purple card overall. So 4 is definitely what you need here. One of the things with this deck that you're going to have a problem with is resource management because you're only at 3 life, and so you're not able to draw that many cards. The thing with Newgate, and the reason why Newgate is so strong, is because it's a 6 life leader and you're taking an extra card from your life every turn. So you're getting extra card draw. Your hand amasses pretty fast. Unfortunately, with Luffy, you're a 3-life leader with 3 less cards than Newgate at that, if you look at it that way. So you do get the 6k body with your leader, but you're not able to draw a lot. And so any kind of card draw you can get is really useful, especially on a blocker. So Queen is, for me, a permanent for this deck at 4. Then we're running 4 Jean Bart, which this I mentioned a little bit earlier when I talked about Zoro, but on play you may pay 1 and you may add up to 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck and set it as active. This helps you ramp, and it came in the starter deck 10, and for whatever reason, this is the art that I have, and I haven't switched it out yet. You can see somebody's thumb on the corner of this card, but I'll keep it, whatever, it doesn't matter. This is a very good, useful card for you to be able to ramp up with, and then if you have already hit 10 Dawn, like with Zoro, and you run into this card, you can just use it for a 1k counter. Then we're running 4 of the Trafalgar Law blockers. This is an on-play Dawn -1. If your opponent has 7 or more cards in their hand, you may trash 2 cards from their hand. This is very useful to be able to thin their hand out a little bit, also provide some protection, and it has a 1k, so it does pretty much everything you need for your entire deck for this to be in here, at 4 at least. I mean, it makes sense. All these blockers need to be at 4 because we're not running that many 2Ks overall. I think Victor is running a total of 4, if I'm correct. Yeah, 4 2Ks. And so blockers are very important. We do have a lot of events, as we'll get to in a second. Then we have 1 of the 7-drop Eustace Captain Kidd. This is useful on play, and when attacking Dawn -1, up to one of your leader gains plus 1,000 power until the start of your next turn. This makes Luffy a 7k leader for an entire turn cycle. You don't want too many of these, though, because they will clog your hand up. I don't know if 1 is the right number. Obviously, it worked for Victor here, but I think if I were to play this with my own ratios, probably 2, but no more than that, just because it is a counterless card and can clog up your hand a lot. We're running 4 Rad Beam, which I think is a must in any red deck. There was a reason that it was restricted, or was it banned? Restricted? One of the two. I think it was restricted to 1. I don't think they banned this, but yeah, this is a very good card. It is basically a pay 1 Dawn, and then if you have 2 or less life, which you will for the most part, you'll gain plus 4,000 power for the turn. So 4 is a must. The trigger is also gain 1,000 power during this turn. You're not really going to use that unless you are feeling like you're going to be lethal to pretty soon. So yeah, for the most part, just hold on to these. Then we're running 2 Fire Fist. This is a tech that I thought was very interesting that Victor added in. It is give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 4,000 power this turn. Then if you have 2 or less life, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a 0 power or less. So a very good practice here that I can think of is if you're trying to get past or you're trying to clear a body, especially against Sakazuki, you can play this down minus 4,000 to something on the board, and then if you're at 2 or less life cards, once again, you're often at that threshold, you can KO something that is 0 power or less. So a Rebecca blocker, for instance, is something you can KO with this, and then also minus 4,000 to something else. You can also use this with your Edward Newgate, second ability on ×2 when attacking, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 3,000 power or less. So you can use this on a 7,000 power body and then use the Newgate effect to KO it. So there are some, maybe like a Sabo blocker without the Sabo effect for that turn. You can KO a Sabo with that. It's pretty useful. There's a lot of good uses for it overall. And this is an interesting tech. And also the King is an interesting tech that I think Victor added in that I haven't seen in many other RP Luffy deck lists, but it makes sense. Then we're running 2 of the Diablo Jambes. This is select up to one of your Straw Hat Crew leader or character cards, and your opponent cannot activate blocker if that leader or character attacks during this turn. So you use this as a closer with either your leader or also the 10-drop. You can put it on that and surprise people with the 10-drop being unblockable. Then we're running 4 Thunder Bagawas. This makes a lot of sense, and I actually at first didn't like this card in the deck, but I actually think I wouldn't run any less than 4 now that I've been playing with it and testing it out a little bit. Well, it makes sense here because it says your leader or one of your characters gains plus 4,000 power during this battle. Then if you have 2 or less life cards, add 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and rest it. So this allows you to stay alive and then also ramp if you so need to. A really good use for this is after you've played your 10-drop, you can have this in hand and then leave some Dawn up to ramp up again with you being at 2 or less life. And then you can probably get to a stage where either you're safe to play Newgate again right after playing a Luffy or shortly after playing a Luffy, or maybe play something that is a high-costed power that you didn't think that you could be able to play without this. So 4 of these are really good. And then also the trigger is something you might want to consider using. It says add 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and set it as active if it hits the trigger, which this whole deck is just trying to ramp up. So I'd say if you hit the trigger, I would consider it. You know, it's one of those things that if you're wanting to get to your big bodies faster, this is actually really good for it. And the same thing goes for the Gum Gum Jet Gatling. This is a counter that's 0, and you may discard 1 card from your hand, which you do have a lot of bricks, and then up to one of your leader or characters gains plus 3,000 power during this battle. And then the trigger is the same thing where you add up to 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and set it as active. So overall, these events are very useful to keep you alive and then also can ramp you if they come out of life. So overall, I think the deck makes sense. One thing that I would like to note for you if you're looking to play this deck in a competitive scene over the next couple of weeks before OP05 ends, there are a small amount of 2Ks in this deck. There's only 4 total, and I think the reason why Victor only ran 4 total is because you're a 6K leader, and oftentimes people are just going to be poking you for 6, so 1Ks do the job more so than 2Ks. And if somebody's trying to really pressure you and go hard and maybe like lethal you, that's where you have your events that can help out with that. So maybe switching some of the ratios around so that you have more 2Ks as opposed to events if you so choose, because sometimes you are using a lot of your Dawn per turn. So yeah, I would say that's probably one of the few things that I would want to change about this deck, but overall I think it feels pretty good. If you are looking to play something that is good into Sakazuki, this is a very strong deck for you. I think that it does struggle against Enel, and it does struggle against Katakuri. Some of the yellow leaders, just being able to stay alive or also just rip life is very hurtful for this Luffy leader, so there will be some struggles against those. And then also Zoro, if they can go wide and kind of poke you down, because you do have limited resources, you might run into some struggles with the Zoro. But overall, I think it has a pretty good matchup spread, and I'm very happy to see that this deck made it to the top 4. So let's take it into the sim and see how it does. All right, we're going to go against King. I don't think King is a very strong leader right now, so this might be just a good test to see how the deck does overall. But king isn't one that I'm too worried about, or really one that's meta per se. So let's just show you how the deck operates. We just swing 6, and then if we have something to play on curve, we play it down. The Zorojuro will be nice next turn if it can stay alive. I don't think they have anything. They could just go like 6 lead and then play Onigashima. And I don't mean to disrespect king per se. It's just I don't see king too often. It's mostly the only purple leader that I really see is Luffy in 05, but I do think that king has some merit. If they swing 6 here, I usually will just take the first hit just to see what I can get and build up a hand size. But it looks like they're going to swing 6, and I imagine they'll just play island. Yeah. Now, this is a tough one because we could go just 5 and see what they do. If they take it, they do. I kind of want to use my law here because they're at 7, so it makes sense to. We'll rip 2 cards from him, and then we'll just swing 7 again. Or just 7 this time. What did we get? We got a 2 and a 1. Okay. That's not the worst thing in the world. We do have to keep in mind that they are able to ramp up faster than us now because we used our minus ability on this law. I think it's probably important, though, to block so that we can get back up. So we'll use the law blocker to protect the Zorojuro from whatever the king wants to do here. Unless, of course, they do have a king of their own. They can just pop this and then swing in here. Or maybe they want to bait us out to use our blocker and then use the king to KO this. But something to keep in mind here is that if we can keep this alive, we'll be able to ramp up to 9. We won't have a Newgate to play, which is unfortunate. Yeah, it looks like they might. This is a 6, so... Oh, what the heck? I've never... This is interesting. I've never seen somebody actually use this. Yeah, we'll let it go. If we kept the Zoro alive, though, it would be really strong the next turn to be able to use this, get up to 9, and then feel comfortable enough to play like a Newgate if we were able to draw into it. I think the right play here... Get the Nami, see what we can get. I don't really care for the Diablo Jambe, so I'm going to go ahead and just return some of these. We're going to pressure just 5, and then we're going to swing 6, and then we're going to play a Zorojuro as well. Because what we can do is we can actually get down to 10 next turn with the Zoro if we stay alive. They're going to be at 9, so this is a Kaido turn, just to keep in mind. If they play Kaido here, then that is a problem. That does suck for us. Because we're definitely taking that hit. But ideally, if they don't play Kaido here, we can swing just 4. Like, just swing with the Zoro. Don't even attach Dawn. Go up to 10, and then use the ability here of the Luffy to time walk, and then go in and swing hard. I don't think we'll be able to go for game, per se. Yeah, this is fine. I don't mind taking a life here. If they decide... Oh. I'm afraid that they have, like, maybe a king. So I'm going to actually use the trigger here just to be safe. And this also allows us to play Rad Beam if they decide to go really hard with this queen here. So I'm playing safe in the sense that if they somehow are able to get rid of this, okay, then we're fine. I'm actually going to use the Rad Beam. Just use the Rad Beam. Such a good idea. It was honestly such a good idea to use the trigger there because I was expecting to get to 10 with the Zoro, and so getting the Thunder Bagawa trigger is amazing. All right, let's do it. Let's time walk, return. Let's use our leader ability, then use this ability, and then swing 7. They'll probably counter out of this one because if they don't, then they're definitely dead the next turn. Okay, well, I think they might be dead here. We'll go 10. And then we'll go 12. So yeah, I don't know. King is probably not the best example of like a meta deck. However, I think that it's a good idea just to show you how the deck works overall, and then hopefully we can get into a meta deck and show it how it works against that. Okay, Luffy, here's a meta deck. Let's go first. Usually we're always wanting to go first. I think this is fine. We can end of the turn, and then next turn we'll swing 6 and then throw the Zoro down. It is a little hard for Luffy to do damage to us early, so it's nice that we're able to not really feel too threatened. I think they might throw like a Magellan, maybe? No. We'll just go 6. We'll take it. Interesting. Okay. This is a good example where we can go 5 with the Zoro, ramp up. They'll probably counter out of this. I think they'll probably counter out of whatever they can, as most Luffys do. Go to 7, and then the next turn, we'll be able to play our Newgate. So if we can be at 2 life with the Newgate on the field, I feel like that's pretty good. My biggest concern here is, are they swinging anything, any Dawn attachment to this here? I think we just let it go. No reason to keep it alive. And Law is good here because they have 7, but we have a secondary Law. This is also really good too. Let's just swing 5. The Urishima's pretty threatening, not gonna lie. Go 8. I think I want to play my Nami down as well. Wow, they counter out of that. That's crazy. I guess I could have grabbed a 2K, but... Or also the Rad Beam was there too, but it's whatever. It's fine. We don't need it. We probably need it. We'll probably need it, but we'll see how it goes. This is a turn where they might play Kaido down. They go Kaido, they KO this, they swing 9 here. And then 10. If they swing 9 first, I think we just take the 9. Ideally, they just leave up the Jean Bart and they just ignore it and they go for face. No. Why did I should have expected them to do this. Fine. And now the Law isn't really useful, it's just a blocker, so it's fine to toss this out if they decide to go pretty big here. Yeah. Figured it was a Kaido. Yeah. Alrighty. That's not bad. I'm tempted. I'm actually tempted to play it, but I feel like I might die. I'm just going to go Luffy. I'm going to go Luffy because I just want to pressure them as much as possible. Return. Let's use this. 7. I feel like they can counter out of this pretty easily. What? No. Maybe they're baiting me. Maybe they're baiting me. If they're baiting me, it worked. Because I'm doing it. I'm going in. Oh... Please don't bait me. They might have like the, oh my god, do we have it? We have it. I think we have it. 12-5. There's no way they counter out of this, right? Ah, wow. That's insane. All right. Well, I think that was a pretty good showing overall. We were able to play it risky and it paid off. All right, going against Katakuri, this is a really tough matchup for us. We're going to have to try to play it as perfectly as possible. Regardless, I think that if they stay pretty healthy, that they will feel safe enough to play their big drops later on. We're trying to rush them down the best we can. This is the issue with playing against Katakuri, is that they do have a lot of 2Ks and they will counter out of most things, and then they're just swinging 7 naturally at you, which really hurts. Let's go here. I think I'm going to use the Nami to see what I can get. Rad Beam is good. And then let's go 8. I'm going to leave up 2 for the Thunder Bagua so I can ramp up and then play Newgate next turn. And I think that's a really strong play. If we can play Newgate on them going into 8, there's not much of an answer that they have. 10? Interesting. Okay. Let's counter out. Sure. We go 8 here. We'll have 1 up for Rad Beam. They might just drop 2 cards to stay alive. Yeah. $7 to $8. It's not gonna work. I think we just trash. I want to kind of do something here where I go like 5, 4, so maybe 7. 7 here. Go here, KO this. Ooh. That's good. And then 1 for Rad Beam, and then hold on to your pants, because we're going to be in for a rough ride here. I feel like this is a Big Mom turn. We're going to need all the bodies we have, too. So if they play Big Mom here, we're going to have to go like 6 with the Queen. Oh, we're just going to trash, right? We just trash this. I think we trash. Because we don't want to give them extra life. We're trying to play pretty aggressive. Okay, there goes that. They might go 7 with the Parasparrow. If they go 7 with the Parasparrow, then we block. Ooh, okay. Okay. I don't know why they did that, but okay. I think that's game for us. Swing 10. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm just going to do this anyway, because I just want to. We'll back that up. We'll go here. We'll use this. We'll go 7. We could have just played the Luffy for game, but... Oh, I see, I see. Yeah. I mean, I think we had game regardless, but yeah. Overall, this is really tough because if they play the 7 drop, then you kind of have to assess where the game is at, and they were at 3 life, I believe, or somewhere around there, or 2 life, and I feel like if I gave them an extra life for them to go to 4, that we wouldn't have been able to win. And if we gave them extra life to go from 2 to 3, we would also not have been able to win. So trashing the life there, knowing that you can safely protect yourself is useful, but overall, it's one of those matchups where I'm on the edge of my seat the entire time, and usually it's Katakuri favor just because they swing naturally up 7 to your 6, and then play the Big Moms later on and counter out of all your early stuff. So yeah, we ended up pulling it out here though, so oh well. Alrighty, we're gonna go against Sakazuki here, and I think that hopefully we can find the pieces we need to show how this deck actually performs against a top-tier deck like Sakazuki. Overall, I'm going to grab the Jambe because I think it's important to grab it against a deck that runs a gazillion blockers. Something to note is that if you have a body that sticks on the board, I think it's important to just swing with it if you can in this matchup. So I'm going to swing with the Nami and just pressure the Sakazuki's hand, because I don't think this is sticking around. We'll probably get a 2k out of him right here. Yeah. We'll probably take 1. We don't want to take 2 though. I imagine, okay, I thought they might like Hound Blaze and then swing 6 and then go like 8 or 7. But that's fine. We'll ramp up here. We'll go 7. There's probably a block and a 2k. Yeah, block 2k. Pass. The next turn, we're at 8, so then we ramp up. If we get a Newgate here, then this is pretty good for us. They're at 4 cards, which is pretty good for us as well. But we can get a Nami down, see what we get the Nami. swing big with the Jean Bart and the leader, and then leave up 1 or leave up 2 for the Thunder Bagua so that we can actually play the Luffy on curve or ahead of curve. And this will pressure them really hard. They might not have the answers immediately to be able to take care of a Luffy. 10 drop's really hard for them, especially if they're going to be at like 8 Dawn. What? I've never seen a Sakazuki run True No Bastardo. I mean, I guess it makes sense. We get the Newgate off of life, which is really good for us here. I'm fine with them using that there because what that means is like they're not using it on something else, at least for now. This deck looks for the most part like kind of standardish. I see 3000 Worlds. I've never seen a True No Bastardo though. That is insane. It's an interesting tech. I don't know if insane is the right word, but it's an interesting tech. Now, what we'll look to do next turn is we'll go like Newgate into 10 drop. And it feels a little weird getting rid of our Newgate like that. However, they're just going big. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. There's 6 cards. It's a second blocker. We're just going to go hard. We have to pressure them to the best of our ability. Is this a block and a 2K? Okay. Let's go 7 again. Might be another block and a 2K. If it's a block and a 2K, that's amazing for us. Because that leaves us... leaves them open, at least, for us to be able to Jambe past them. Unless they get rid of this, then we could be in a little bit of a problem, but I think we're okay. We have enough counter power to survive this turn, or whatever they throw at us. They might have answers here to get rid of the 10 drop. We're going to be at 7 Dawn, 8 Dawn. We can actually play Newgate again next turn if we want to. Like, say that they get rid of the Luffy here. It's an acceptable play, in my opinion, to just go Newgate. I feel like they're just trying to swing big, though. Establish blockers. That's fine. I think we just win. I actually think we just win here. I'm going to do the 6K just to get a 2K check out of them. I don't know why they established so many blockers when we have a Jambe in hand, so... Oh, well. That's game. GG. You kind of just have to rush them down. It's hard for them to handle that much pressure back to back to back to back, especially if you're ramping up so fast. Them playing that many Borsalinos, it feels like they didn't know that what Jambe does overall, and I think it does take some people by surprise if you have it in hand and you don't disclose it at the very first turn. But yeah, overall, that's how you play the Sakazuki matchup. You just try to ramp up to Newgate, play Newgate down, and then if you can get a 10 drop after that or chain Newgates and establish so much pressure on them that they are getting rid of all the 2Ks out of their hand early on and they don't have a lot of cards left, you're probably okay. So yeah, this is a favorable matchup overall. Well, there it is. This is the deck in all its glory. I think that it makes sense that it got to the top 4 of Nats just because of how it plays. It's very fast. It's hit your opponent's face, have them answer what you have, and if they don't, then you probably win the game. Like I said at the beginning of the video, you're going to run into issues against like a Nell and maybe Katakuri, but if you can dodge those matchups, or at least learn how to play those matchups, then you should be fine with this deck. With a couple more weeks left in the OPO5 meta, I think that this is a fair deck to pick up and play, and I think that this deck actually lasts a little bit longer past that. I saw recently that it topped in a recent, I think it was another national tournament in Asia, where RP Luffy ended up topping in, I think it was 06. And so there's some EB cards that come out that help this a lot as well. And we'll probably look to cover this leader in future videos because I think this leader is one that will stick around for a little while. But I think overall, this is a very fun deck. If you're looking to play very fast and beat face, then this is the deck for you. Just as a little bit of a heads up for you guys that are interested in what's coming up for the channel for the next couple of weeks, obviously we have a few weeks left in OP05 meta. I think what I want to do is when Uta is updated within the sim, show how Uta is played, and then there is one other deck that I really want to showcase that I haven't talked about at all, and that is the Rosinante, blue-green Rosinante leader. I think that deck is very fun and frustrating to play against and has a lot of potential, and just want to show it before 05 ends. And then after that, we'll do some typical, set review for 06, limited sets, and then on top of that, we'll do a tier list video for 06, and then we'll get into 06. We're already almost there. It's at the time of this recording, we're about a month away from 06, and so I'm excited. Obviously, we've been in 05 for a little while, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. I think overall it was fresh to start off with, and now that we're in kind of a Nell Sakazuki meta, it might be a little bit stale, but there are some diamonds that can come through the rough, and red purple Luffy is one of those. So anyway, thank you so much everybody for watching. Hopefully you guys will enjoy the videos to come, and I hope to see you in future videos. Thank you so much.